Hello everyone, today we have a gold Conquest run. It's been very requested that we bring some Conquest back into the mix of videos, and with Bar Sinister as the featured location today, I thought what a perfect time to get away from ranked ladder and jump into Conquest. Today we're going to have a mill junk style mix. It is much heavier on the junk style, but it uses a couple of the kind of core or the strategies of a regular mill deck, in that it uses Gladiator to try to pull out one of their cards, potentially overpowering it. It's a good Shang Chi plus Gladiator pull on the last turn. It's a really big high power play, or you can curve it out earlier to send your Titania their way, or just see if you can pull one of their big resources. We also have the Shadow King and the Shang Chi. That is not something that is common in all junk style decks, but I think Shadow King is very well poised right now, at least until Ajax comes out. We'll have to give it a little bit of time for Luke Cage to drop out of the meta, but at least for right now, I think Shadow King is in a beautiful spot, countering a lot of the big blob plays that are very common in your Arishem builds. We have a lot of scalable pieces in Silver Surfer, in Gwynpool, in just a regular Thena, Angela, Kitty Pryde core. We have a lot of uses and hits for Shadow King, and it can be absolutely devastating whenever it hits and they're not expecting it. We also have the Alioth, which I really enjoy. Alioth, it's always one of those surprise big cube swings, because you're never going to lose an Alioth game unless you know they have Alioth. You're never going to lose it as a minimal cube loss. It is typically going to be those 4 and 8 cube games when you have it locked, and then all of a sudden the fart cloud comes in and steals those away, and you're just gutted. Like, you never anticipate it, especially as that surprise drop. And so in this one, we actually forewent the Cannonball. So if you don't have Cannonball, no problem. This one works well in Conquest. It works well on ladder. And I've been having an absolute blast with the slight changes that take out the really cool core of the Dagger and then Iron Fist, Ghost Spider, and puts in a little bit more counter heavy style stuff in the Shadow King, Alioth, and Gladiator. All of them work phenomenally. The rest of the deck stays about the same. It's a very core, like 9 cards, and then those 3 can be really flex tools. If you can utilize those flex tools well, then you can either surprise the opponent or find ways to rebuild that deck that works incredibly well for you and for your playstyle and what you're seeing on the ladder. So before we go ahead and jump over into the Conquest games, just a quick shout out. I am live right now, so if you want to see my live stream content, jump over to twitch.tv/TLSG Snap. I would love to have you guys there. We're going to go ahead and jump over into the Conquest matches. Thank you guys as always for being here. Hope you guys enjoy. Last turn in the right lane, which isn't huge. It's not going to be great for us. Thena, we could always potentially go Shadow King to offset their Thena in the right lane. That's still very minimal impact. Okay, so they do go with the double drop. The Kitty Pryde, unfortunately, does come down in that lane. The Hawk in the left lane is going to be below our Shang Chi range. Thena is going to scale. Let's see if we end up drawing our Shadow King here. Shadow King. And so 3, 6, 9 would be 18. We could do this. They've already blown their Juggernaut. So this is, I think the Shadow King is what's going to surprise them here and potentially mean or make them stay for 4. Go ahead and lock in the Shadow King. They're going to lose 6 extra power here. They'll get 3 of it back at the end of the game, but they're losing that 6 power. And so Mystique to copy the Hawk in the left lane. And then is this going to be Iron Man? And then the Iron Man. And so they're going to be 18 with our Iron Man. We are going to be maybe I did it wrong. 3, 6, 9, 18, 20. That's fine. We did the math wrong. This one was 4 instead of 3. They go up to 20, but we are able to scale higher than they could because of the Shadow King. The Shadow King is what allowed us to potentially position ourselves in a winning line there. Let's take the 4, and then we'll press it just a little bit further. All right, let's go ahead and lock in a Nebula into Mirror Dimension. If they play for it, then that's great. Our Nebula, unfortunately, isn't going to be able to scale too drastically, but I'm thinking that may not be that big of an issue. Let's go ahead and skip on 2. They will have to play their Kitty Pryde just about every turn. And so this one may end up being a round where we retreat out for 1. If they snap or press that advantage, I think the Nebula not being able to scale is pretty big. And them having Kitty Pryde on 1 is also pretty big. And so good heads up snap from them. We had our counter cards in our Shang Chi, Shadow King, the extension of magic but I do still think it's worth retreating out for the one there. Knowing that they have the Kitty Pryde line, they could have also had Thena. We're just going to let them have that one, jump into a different round where we're a little bit more advantaged. And so the White Widow into magic here is great. And then Nebula is also really big as well. So let's go with Nebula to the right. I always like the idea of doing like White Widow into Aunt May's, into magic to rip it away. That way we get the +3, which is maybe not game-changing, but usually pretty decent. Ooh. And with the Shadowlands coming in mid, I do like White Widow into debris, either in Aunt May's or to the right. Because if they have Kitty Pryde, if they have Thena, Ravonna, we're going to be able to get this location very close to being capped out. Especially with Thena scaling here. They're going to have a max of 3 if they don't play a card in this location this turn. And so let's go ahead and play debris here. Hope that it doesn't scoot over into Shadowlands. That would be the only way that we lose because Dark Dimension came up. Otherwise, we were going to position debris over to the right. And they do play a card directly into Shadowlands. And we do scale and move our debris over into Shadowlands as well, which is super unfortunate. And so we always lose that middle location now. And the opponent should probably snap here. We got really unfortunate with the stack. They had that mobile card in the Nocturne. So they have a lot of advantages against us. But if they're not going to punish us for that, then we will stick it out for now.
Hey, you found a rook.
And so Korg comes down, Ravonna comes down. We have magic to extend the game, but I'm not sure that we get much benefit because they can always rip that away with their Nocturne. We could try Shang Chi and hide it in the right lane. We have to look out for Juggernaut in Aunt May's. Juggernaut there would be really disruptive. That's why we played our Gladiator there early. But a Juggernaut plus moving Nocturne over, and we wouldn't have the power there that we would necessarily need. And actually, Shang-Chi's not great, is it? That's fine. I don't think we win the right lane, but I almost want to stay and do Alioth to the left. Because if they do, let's say Iron Man, and this card is Mystique. We stop that from scaling. It could also be Hawk. Right now it's not going to... Shang-Chi wouldn't hit Hawk. I almost want to stay for the 4. I know it's probably not a risk reward. It's probably not perfect, but we do have initiative. We can rip away the Iron Man, the Juggernaut, to push for this left lane. Then maybe we get lucky in the right. Double drop in left. Alioth is going to come in, potentially huge for us. Juggernaut, not going to do it. Rock Slide. If this is Hawk over in the right lane, then I think we lose. No, we win. Just barely. Goodness.
Victory.
A surprise Alioth can be so beautiful and so big. That one was a scary one, but I am glad we stuck it out. Had they moved their Nocturne, they should have been able to win that one. Down to just the last 2 cubes. We have our Green Goblin in our opening hand. Warrior Falls is always a little bit scary because of that potential Juggernaut play, but we have let them know that we have that Alioth. We're not going to be completely bullied by it, by that last turn, just power swing.
Opponent snapped.
And I think we're okay with that. So Asgard comes in mid. They do have Kitty Pryde on their opening. We know you can't completely cap them out in Asgard. You know what? I'm gonna stick it out. We're gonna max them out. The Thena or Korg. So Korg comes out. I'm guessing Thena is also in the mix, which would be perfectly fine. Ooh, the Lechu Gia is so unfortunately scary. Let's go Green Goblin in mid. We could always Doc Ock to the left and pull things like potentially Iron Man, Mystique, Sage, be able to have those destroyed where they don't give them benefit in Asgard. They do drop Nocturne here, so if we were somehow able to get magic, then that would be great. But we did draw the Korg Rock immediately after it came in, which seems to be our common line here, unfortunately. Let's throw the rock into the wolves, and next turn is probably going to be Doc Ock into Warrior Falls. We can always push a card into Lechugia to try to bump up their Hawk above that limit, so we could Shang Chi it. So Sage comes down in mid, Kitty Pryde in the left lane. Unfortunately, we didn't have something that was more than 3 power, or we could have destroyed the Kitty Pryde. It would have felt so good, but unfortunately it did not fall that way. Let's go Doc Ock to the left. I think this one becomes a loss, unless we get some really good cards in the left lane in Warrior Falls. Because Shadow King sets this to 0, and so then it would end up being 4. And so we, between Shadow King and Titania, if Nocturne doesn't move, then that's perfect. But the 13 power Hawk comes down in the left lane, which does get very scary very fast. We would have to do Shang Chi to be able to win that location. So 4, 5, 6, 7, and we don't. Ooh, okay. Doc Ock being pushed over to the right is actually okay. Depending on what else they drop. This one does go below Shang-Chi range. And so I think it does still go down to like a Shadow King, Titania, Debris. Unless we could double stack the Shang-Chi in the left, we might potentially try to angle that if that was a line. They do have Nocturne. Ooh. Forgot about Lechugia. Do we think they changed the Lechugia? Do they let it flow? I feel like they moved their Nocturne over into the Lechugia. But just in case they don't, we're going to go Titania, and then we're going to go Shang-Chi to the left. And so Rock Slide comes in. The Angela scaling is massive. Into the Kitty Pryde. We should outscale that with just the Titania in the right, and then the left lane is a massive, massive Shang-Chi swing back in our favor, in our direction. We will gladly take it. And that is the first round of the Gold Conquest. Let's go ahead and jump over into our next battle. All right, next up we have Adriano. The first location is the Isle of Silence. It is an Arishem deck, and they snap on the jump. A lot of times we can find ways to overpower an Arishem deck. We have the Shang-Chi, we have Doc Ock, we have Shadow King. All fantastic ways to counter the Arishem, or to counter their big plays at the very least. They do have Quinjet, so a Loki could be very, very scary. The Mobius is interesting. Automatically built in. Ooh, but they lose their Quinjet bonus, which is also kind of funny. All right, let's go Gladiator. Depending on what we draw, we have Debris. We could always Debris left, or we could do White Widow into mid. They do get Nick Fury, and the signed Nick Fury at that, which I think is one of the least utilized kind of giveaway cards that we've gotten. And then we get the Titania, which is such a good like dynamic duo. Go ahead and snap back into it. We have Titania, White Widow, tapping out 2 of these spots. We can always recall it later to get that Titania and power back on our side. We have Doc Ock in the Isle of Silence on turn number 5, and they do play a card there with the Professor X. And so our Titania is actually not going to be able to... It is going to be able to move because White Widow couldn't push anything there. Super unfortunate. And the Professor X is built into their deck too, unfortunately. I think we're going to go down 4 here early. So maybe it was a little bit hasty. Knowing the range that Arishem can do, maybe it was hasty to retreat there. And so their leader copies our card, and we end up pulling Alioth, which is not awful, but we don't. That takes away our big card or a big play in deep space. So Infinite and Nico. We do still have the lead here. But what we don't have is any way to put any kind of like reasonable power in the right lane. All right, and so we are down 4 very early on, which you don't like to see. You never like to see. The super flow in the left lane is okay. It kind of takes away the benefit that they get from their extra energy, but of course they scale further faster. And we have to worry about the Professor X now that we know that that is in their deck. And then I think that is the first Arishem Jeff that I've seen generated. And so Superflow, we have Dream Dimension, which as long as we have the extra energy isn't that big of an issue. I think maybe we go ahead and play our Magic into the mid. I don't really care for Dream Dimension. It's super unfortunate. And their cards wouldn't increase because of the Mobius that they had on 2 again. So they may have a Legion built in, so we can't be completely certain about this Limbo location, unfortunately. Danger Room in the right lane is not bad. I think we're going to go ahead and skip here. We do have Doc Ock to use on turn number 4, which is so big. And then the Wasp in the right lane to stop Nebula from scaling, and it sticks. And so let's go with our Doc Ock in mid.
Opponent snapped.
Either that or we go Doc Ock in the left lane to pull the majority of their resources over. And since they have initiative, I think we go ahead and do that. They snapped. I'm going to go ahead and take it back a notch, and we're going to slow play this. We're going to go ahead and just lock in the left lane. So they play for mid with the blue Marvel. All right, not Marvelous for us, but maybe we can Shadow King one of their big cards away. Shang Chi, one of their big cards away. So Arishem and, of course, the Shang Chi comes in. So we can cap out this location. We can actually cap out left as well. Something like Titania, Green Goblin. Depending on if or where they play their one resource that they got. Let's go ahead and do this. They do play for the left lane with Omega Red. And so we're going to get the Green Goblin over there. We'll probably play maybe Alioth into the left lane on this next turn. And that'll give us not the lead, but close. We'll still have to invest an additional card there on turn number 7, which becomes very unfortunate. They do allow Nebula to scale here. So it would come down to... It would come down to if a card was able to stick in the Danger Room. And I like the Gladiator to the left. That's going to take away 3 from this lane and this lane. Give us the sizable lead in the left. And then we'd kind of be hopeful and hoping about the Danger Room. I am going to stick this one out. But they only play for mid, the Doctor Doom. And so once Omega Red rips that left lane away, Shang-Chi has to stick here to be able to win. And we get very fortunate with the Danger Room luck. It is only a 25% chance that it destroys the card, but we got very fortunate. We grab the 4 cubes back, and then it ties it up. Arishem is one of those that it's going to be a battle. It's going to be brutal because they have so much varying range of things that they can do that you just can't reasonably anticipate any of them. And so on any other deck, you can see a couple cards and know generally what 12 cards they're going to have built in. The thing that makes Arishem kind of tough to deal with is that you have no idea what they're capable of. And so the second location being Utopia, we have Green Goblin, we have Debris. So we'll be able to start tapping out the locations relatively early. They snapped on us, and we're going to let them have the driver's seat for now. Arishem and having that range, I don't want to get ourselves into another position like we did in that first round, where they snapped, we thought we had a counter and snapped back and ended up not being able to do anything at all. So they snapped into the Mobius for Utopia. So we'll go ahead and just do Magic there on turn number 3. We take away the benefit for them. Our benefit is gone as well. And so I think it's fine. They get 1 extra turn where they have discounted cards over what we do. Bar Sinister is always kind of interesting with like a... Ooh, hold on. Bar Sinister is also always kind of interesting with like a Green Goblin or White Widow. I know I said I wasn't going to snap into it, but I want to juke them out and make them think that we're playing for Bar Sinister this turn with one of those cards, so that maybe they play a card into that lane, and then we can just play a bigger one later. They didn't fall for it, unfortunately. So the Agent Coulson comes down. I do wish we had went with the White Widow or something over there, but we weren't quite able to. The Black Swan comes down, which is a good base power for that lane. And so with magic, we do get White Widow now. Day late, $1 short, I think. Is it risky to go Bar Sinister? We could always go White Widow into Doc Ock, into Debris mid to cap out this left lane. We're gonna gamble and see. Beautiful. They did not respect the fact that we have junk that can fill up the right location with Bar Sinister, and so they skipped it one turn, thought they were home free. We have the White Widow that is going to punish them very, very hard in the right location. That should be a surefire win now. And now it just comes down to like the Doc Ock pool. Maybe we get Red Hulk is a nice touch. We could always do Gladiator plus Debris. So Gladiator to the left, Debris mid to almost potentially cap them out of the entire game by next turn. They have 6 cards, and so 2 out of 6, or I guess 1 out of 5 chance to pull into the Shang Chi. We'll see what we end up hitting here. X23 is fine, and then Blob. Blob is beautiful. We have the Shang Chi. This becomes a very easy win. It just depends on, I guess, what turn we should do it. You know, just to play it safe, in case they have like Legion that we haven't seen yet, I'm going to do Shadow King here. That's going to set this to 4. I'm going to set it to 3. And then we have Shang-Chi to kind of help this left lane. If they don't change this to one way, but they do play 1 card, we do have the Debris. And so let's go ahead and go Shadow King line. It's a little bit safer than the Shang-Chi because Shang-Chi is going to open up that space for them to play there on the last turn. Shadow King is going to make them eat that blob, and it's going to be super unfortunate for them. So we're setting up for the potential that they can somehow rip Limbo away, which is not always likely, but might be. So they do cap out the left lane. We have Debris. They're gonna leave on this next turn and go down to a measly 2 cubes, which I think is perfect. All right, let's go Red Hulk, just in case. Their best play, but they always retreat here, leaving them down to 2 cubes. And that's also the thing with Arishem, is that they typically are very wild with those snaps. Their snap lines are a lot riskier than other decks because they have such a big power swing that a lot of times it feels like that they have that winning line, which is also one of the difficult things about playing Arishem, is figuring out when you should actually snap and figuring out when you should maybe pump the brakes a little bit. And so if you can position it correctly, then you can get a lot of extra cubes off of an opponent. And so the Altar of Death is an interesting one. We have a 1 out of 5 chance to pull into Doc Ock next turn. I think we go ahead and play White Widow into mid, and then we're going to stack like a Nebula and maybe another card in the left lane, just in case it turns into the Altar of Death. We want to have that advantage. Plus, they don't have any cards built in that we've seen so far that can reach the Altar of Death. And so we'll have a little bit of advantage here with that White Widow play. And I like the Gladiator left into Nebula. We're going to go ahead and snap into it just because we know that them getting power into the Altar of Death would come down to that random element. And I think we're going to push that advantage where we can. We also have the potential to draw magic if we need to. And so the Loki comes down. Finally seeing the Loki line, and they had 4 cards that they're changing. Luckily, they did it before our turn because Gladiator gave them an extra 2, which is really unfortunate. But this left lane, Altar of Death, would be beautiful, making it really difficult for them to find ways to win. I think we go Debris, Titania right. Titania is going to move their way because we have initiative. So even if they Doc Ock pull us, we'll have 1 space free here. And then if they play here, they're not really going to have any space. I guess the Debris may be overkill here. Maybe we don't Debris. They could be looking at a magic in one of the lanes. But I think we're just going to go Titania for now. Next turn, we could either send it their way We could do a debris so that we can make them think that maybe they can play that mind game and win with the Titania, but we'll see. And with that right lane, it does look like they're going to play a card over there, pull Titania onto that side of the board, which is beautiful. Gladiator comes in, and we hit magic of our own, which is going to get destroyed, but Titania is going to cap them out over there. It then becomes a much easier location to focus on and win. I do think we go something like... Titania, or not Titania, a Green Goblin in mid this turn. If they go like Debris to the left, if they go Doc Ock to the left, they're only going to have one space left to play in the Limbo location. So I think we're heavily advantaged in the matchup. And so one card in mid, 2 cards in left. They could go Green Goblin of their own, of course, but no, they go Kyera as a way to try to win and push for the Altar of Death. They lose their Hawk, and they're capped out in mid. We could cap them out in the left lane with the Debris, but we have Red Hulk that's scaling dramatically. We play it over here on the last turn, summon this one back to our side, and then just the Alioth in mid wins. I don't see a way for them to win ever. So we'll absolutely take it. They're going to stop our Nebula from scaling, but they'll have to get something else to stick there, like a blob. But that's not going to win them these other 2 locations. So let's go ahead and call Titania back onto our side. We have the middle locked in, and then that was a good fight from Adriano, but ultimately we will gladly take the win with 6 bars of health remaining. And so they do go with the double drop. Unless there is a way that they can steal extra power over there, we should have an easy lock-in. That would be round number 2. We have 1 more to go to be able to secure the infinite ticket. All right, last up we have King Chillin. The first location is Quantum Tunnel, so we can rotate our cards and hope for either a Magic, a White Widow, a Doc Ock. I think that's what we're going to go ahead and do. It does give them quite a bit of information about what kind of deck we're running really early, but I think that may be all right. And we can always redraw into Titania by the end of the game. We cycle into White Widow, which is a great early game card for us to pull into. I do want to keep Nebula onto the board. We're going to go ahead and keep it. We're going to play it into mid, and as we get some information, hopefully, about what kind of deck they're running. Okay, so Forge rotation. This could be a Gwynpool deck. It definitely looks like a Gwynpool Surfer deck. I think we have an okay shot against that. Them rotating here is kind of scary for them because a lot of times they'll want to do like Surfer, Absorbing Man, Gwynpool, and none of those are going to be reliable rotation tools. I'm going to Magic into Tarnax because that is the RNG element here. That is the thing that we don't know. So if they go Brood here, they're going to be looking to change that low power Brood in the front into something else. We're going to make sure that that can't happen. And so with this deck, I think we do have a little bit of an early advantage against them, because we do have things like Debris to cap out their locations, and Absorbing Man here would end up capping out almost the rest of their space. And we do get the Debris rotation. Shadow King is going to rotate into Green Goblin, which is also great in Quantum Tunnel. If this is Absorbing Man, that leaves them with 1 space left to play, but it is Negasonic. So whatever we play is going to end up getting destroyed. We need kind of a throwaway card. I almost want to Doc Ock in the left lane. If we Doc Ocked in mid, we would end up throwing that one away. And that's quite a bit of power to just be throwing. But at the same time, if we rotate Doc Ock to the left, we have some good hits. Titania is fine. Gladiator and Red Hulk are both also fine. So I think maybe we go ahead and go for it. We're going to cap them out of this left lane. Leave the Negasonic at B for now. Spider-Man is actually going to grab one of our cards, move it over into mid, and so White Widow moves over. They're not capped out of the left lane, at least not yet. Gladiator comes down into Gladiator, so they are going to be capped out. Looks like they're going to be capped out of the rest of the game on turn number 5. We're going to go ahead and... No. Green Goblin is one that you don't ever see here. It's super interesting. A 2/4/6 extra power here with a Silver Surfer. 2/4/6 extra here, so 18 and 15 are going to be their output ranges. at least we have really big cards left in our deck. So if we draw Titania, we know it's a guaranteed rotation into Doc Ock. Or if we draw Doc Ock, it's a guaranteed rotation into Titania. 2, 4, 6 puts them to 18. We really needed the Titania top deck, I think. Go ahead and retreat out of this one. We know a couple of their surprise cards. The Green Goblin was one that I don't know that I've seen in this build. Same thing with Negasonic. It's definitely a pretty cool tech choice that they have. That now that we know is there, we can play around. But the Negasonic, Green Goblin, the Spider-Man, all outside of your common Silver Surfer cards. And so we do have Magic to extend the game this time around. We also have White Widow and Titania, which are both really good early kind of fill cards into the Doc Ock. Let's go ahead and snap into it. I think we have a pretty decent advantage. Let's White Widow to the left, and then I think we go ahead and Magic next turn, unless we get something like Green Goblin or Debris. Then we could forego playing Magic until turn number 4, so we could use it in unison with the Titania. So they skip 1, 2, so no Forge for them. Green Goblin can be really, really scary. Subterranea, we draw a rock immediately. Let's go ahead and go with the Magic line in the vault. That way it opens it up. We can play there for the rest of the game, and they're not going to be able to get an easy lock-in, especially since they have that scalable power in like a Silver Surfer or something to put additional power there after it's locked in. And so they'd go with Fastos on turn number 3. I'm going to play just Titania over to the left. If they play one card in Limbo, it's going to send her their way, unless it's Green Goblin, of course. It's going to send it their way, and I do like the chances there. Gladiator mills us of one of our rocks, which is perfect, and they play a rock into Limbo, which is also perfect. And so now this lane is locked in. We can always bring it back by the end of the game. Let's go Doc Ock in mid. I want the best possible chance to completely cap out a lane. That way, if we end up going with Alioth, perfect. We know exactly where that benefit's going to lie. Otherwise, we know what power we need. So Killmonger comes in, so it's no longer locked in the left lane, which is unfortunate. Brood comes down, and then Rogue comes down. So no Silver Surfer, unfortunately. I think I'm going to go Gladiator mid, Shang Chi left. Then we're going to try to set up for an Alioth line. I think if they're going to... So Spider-Man's going to pull one of our cards out of the left lane over into the right. I think if they're going to Silver Surfer... It would have to happen in the right lane, unless they could play both. So I think I would play Alioth into Limbo, but we did get the retreat, so they didn't have Surfer in hand. We've actually only not seen one of their cards, which I assume is Surfer. So we have a really good idea of what their overall deck looks like. But it does look like this is going to be a little bit of a slow-moving game. Let's go Nebula to the left. We have White Widow. We have Gladiator. The Spider-Man blocks any kind of junk line that we end up going with. Could potentially accidentally cap out one of our locations. The Green Goblin. Also, it's definitely a unique build. I like the home brews or the cooks because I haven't seen anything like this anywhere. Let's go White Widow to the left in case they try to stop her from scaling, which it looks like they don't. It does start them getting capped out a little bit. We have the Gladiator, we have Magic to extend the game, and then Quantum Realm in the right lane. I think we're going to go ahead and go Green Goblin in the left. And then if we draw Titania, Titania plus Magic is perfect. Otherwise, we'll see what that looks like. So Shadow King comes down. So we're not going to be able to offset Quantum Realm. So that does look like the location we need to use Magic in. And we do get Titania, though. And so it's really difficult to not just do this. And make sure the left lane's capped out. They only have 2 cards that would scale from a Silver Surfer. We have Gladiator for mid. We have 2 turns to overcome that power there. Washington, D.C. is kind of unfortunate for the Brood line. That's going to give them some really big Broods in mid. It's probably a little bit better to change that one. But I do think we're going to go, ooh. And so they play a card into Kunlun. It could end up being Spider-Man, could be Negasonic, could be Green Goblin. So it is the Spider-Man. So that moves over into Quantum Realm, and it's the Nebula. So Nebula is going to get some free scaling over there. That does open this lane back up, but Titania scales their way, and we can actually now resend that back onto our side on the last turn. So the Spider-Man, while good in theory, did not end up working for them in that situation. Let's go Doc Ock into mid. That way we can have a very specific amount of power that we have to overcome. And then they do drop the Brood, and so 5 power Broodlings already into the Sarah line. We're going to need to 2, 4, 6. They don't have Absorbing Man. We know that for sure because we've only not seen one of their cards. And so I think we're going to Gladiator, pull Titania onto our side, hit it with a Debris. Because next turn we're either drawing Alioth or Red Hulk. And so if they play one card in Quantum Realm this turn, we're going to cap them out of the rest of the game. Killmonger comes in though. And so it opens up the left lane. And we're coming in after the fact. And so we're actually going to close them out of the game once again. Unfortunately, we do pull Silver Surfer out of their deck. So they are going to get a bonus there. But when Debris comes down, that's going to lock them into how much power they have. And so a Red Hulk would be exactly what we needed here. Even though these scaled up, since we don't have our Shadow King anymore, that got pulled by their Gladiator, we do have the kind of quirky or funny line on that last turn to dodge that Killmonger play. And so we have the 13 power Red Hulk that's going to come into mid. And they may end up staying for this one because they may not think we have the ability to outscale them. And we are able to grab the 4, putting them down very badly, very early on. And so with 4 cubes left, we are looking in a pretty dominant spot. We have a lot of pressure on them early. Gamma Lab, if they end up playing very many cards there, we do have Shang Chi, which can steal that away and put it back in our favor. And so something like Debris left was going to be our line, but with Astrodam, that's going to get yanked over there. And so maybe that ends up not being the direction we go. Maybe we go Debris mid, knowing that we can destroy the Gamma Lab location with our Shang-Chi. We can also go Debris right to make sure that we get rid of Vormir. We can then start playing for it, and they do play Brood. Very brave of you. Their first Brood gets pulled out of Gamma Lab, but with Debris, we're going to cap them out of that left lane. All we have to drop over there is Shang-Chi, and we'll win that lane, which makes this much more manageable. And so after this turn plays out, we're not going to snap as soon as we saw that, but as soon as this turn plays out, we will be able to bring it back with the snap, and I think they'll retreat, but maybe they'll stay.
Snap.
We have the Titania and Gladiator line, which could potentially, if it pulls their Gladiator, I guess, would be the only thing that could stick in Astrodam. But I do think it's kind of funny. They're Fastos. They are just letting that one get destroyed. They're throwing that one away. And so it's moving into mid, but it does die. Gladiator coming in. What do we end up pulling here? The Green Goblin, which is perfectly fine. We're fine not seeing the Green Goblin play. Titania bounces to their side, but it becomes kind of iffy. Go ahead and go Doc Ock to the right. I think that will cap them out. I don't think they push a card into Astrodam. If we thought for sure they would, then we could Doc Ock there, but otherwise, no such luck. And so we're going to pull out 3 of the remaining 4 resources. The Negasonic is scary. The Spider-Man is going to move us into mid, and so Doc Ock being over there is great. That's actually perfect. That avoids the awkwardness of that Negasonic line. All we have to do is this. We could go Nebula and scale, but the Shadow King is going to offset these 2, bring them back. We're going to be able to win mid. We're going to be able to win left with just the Shang-Chi play. And I don't think they can stick this one out. I don't think there's any way that they can, but they do. They may just be tired of it, and they don't want to go down to a 9 versus 2, so they may have stayed just a little bit longer than what they would have otherwise. but we are able to grab the 4, and we're going to go ahead and wrap up the 3rd round of the Infinite Conquest. Very interesting deck, but just unfortunately it wasn't quite able to do enough, consistently enough, to be able to find that win. So we will grab our Infinite ticket here, and then that is where we're going to go ahead and end the video. Thank you guys, as always, for being here. I hope you guys enjoyed.